In this episode, we're going to make wireless networking feel much less confusing by focusing on what a beginner really needs to understand first. Most users do not describe wireless problems with technical words. They say the signal is weak, the connection is slow, the headphones keep cutting out, or the device works in one room, but not another. Behind those simple complaints are a few core ideas about bands, channels, standards, speed, range, and interference. Once those ideas are clear, wireless stops feeling like magic and starts feeling like something you can reason through. That matters on the CompTIA A+ exam. But it also matters in real support work because many device problems that seem random are actually caused by crowded airspace, poor placement, band limits, or short-range radio features being used in the wrong way. If you can connect what the user feels to what the radio is doing, your troubleshooting gets much better very quickly. Before we continue, a quick note. This audio course is part of our companion study series. The first book is a detailed study guide that explains the exam and helps you prepare for it with confidence. The second is a Kindle-only ebook with 1,000 flashcards you can use on your mobile device or Kindle for quick review. You can find both at Cyber.News in the Bare Metal Study Guide series. A good starting point is to understand what a Wi-Fi standard really is. A standard is simply a common set of rules that helps wireless devices communicate in a predictable way. Different Wi-Fi standards were developed over time, and newer ones usually improve speed, efficiency, and the ability to handle many devices at once. That is why a newer phone or laptop often feels better on a modern wireless network than an older device does, even if both can still connect. The standard affects how much data can move, how the device shares airspace with other devices, and which wireless bands it can use. For a beginner, the main point is not to treat the standard name as a fact to memorize by itself. Instead, think of the standard as the generation of wireless technology the device and access point are using together. If both sides support a newer standard, the experience is often faster and smoother, especially when the network is busy. The two most important Wi-Fi bands to understand at this level are 2.4 GHz and 5 GHz. The 2.4 GHz band is older, very common, and good at reaching farther distances than 5 GHz in many everyday situations. It often travels through walls and objects better, which is why devices may still detect it even when they are farther from the access point. That sounds great at first, but there is a trade-off. 2.4 GHz usually offers lower speed than 5 GHz, and it is a very crowded part of the airwaves because many other devices use it too. In a home, apartment building, school, or office, that band may be full of neighboring networks and other signals competing for space. So while 2.4 GHz often gives you more reach, it can also bring more congestion, more interference, and a slower feel when many devices are active nearby. 5 GHz is different in ways that are very important for support. It usually offers higher speed than 2.4 GHz and often has more room for devices to spread out across available channels. That makes it especially useful for activities that benefit from more bandwidth, such as video calls, large downloads, streaming, and busy office traffic. The trade-off is that 5 GHz usually does not reach as far and often does not move through walls and floors as easily as 2.4 GHz. A device can have an excellent 5 GHz connection in the same room as the access point, and then lose quality much faster as distance and obstacles increase. This is why a user may say the wireless feels great near the router but terrible in the back bedroom, or why performance is strong in an open office area but weaker behind heavy walls or shelving. The band is not bad. It is simply better at speed than at long reach. Once you understand those two bands, many user complaints start to make more sense. A user who says the signal is strong everywhere, but the connection feels slow may be stuck on a crowded 2.4 GHz network. A user who says the connection is very fast near the access point, but drops off sharply as they walk away, may be using 5 GHz and running into its shorter reach. This is why wireless support is not only about whether the device is connected. It is also about what kind of connection it has and whether that connection fits the environment. A beginner should learn to think of 2.4 GHz as the band that often reaches farther but gets crowded more easily, while 5 GHz often feels faster and cleaner but covers space less generously. That simple comparison is one of the most useful wireless ideas you can carry into the exam and into real support conversations with users who only know that something feels wrong. Channels are the next piece of the puzzle, and this is where many learners start to see why wireless can behave badly even when the signal seems fine. A channel is like a lane inside a wireless band. Devices using Wi-Fi need space to communicate, and channels help organize that space so traffic is less likely to collide with other nearby traffic. In the 2.4 GHz band, there are only a few commonly used channels that avoid heavy overlap, especially channels 1, 6, and 11. Because so many devices and nearby networks are trying to use the same small set of clean lanes, congestion happens easily. In the 5 GHz band, there are generally more channel choices, which helps reduce crowding. For a technician, the important idea is that a device can still show a decent signal while suffering from a poor experience because the airspace around that signal is crowded. Strong bars do not always mean clean communication. The channel environment matters too. Congestion and interference are related, but they are not exactly the same thing, and it helps beginners to separate them. Congestion means too many devices or networks are trying to use the same wireless space at once. Interference means another signal or source is disturbing the wireless traffic and making communication less clean. A crowded apartment building with many nearby Wi-Fi networks is a good example of congestion. A microwave oven, some cordless devices, thick metal shelving, or other electronics disrupting wireless behavior is a better example of interference. To the user, both problems may sound the same because the result can be slow loading, dropped calls, buffering video, or a device that keeps reconnecting. But for a technician, the cause matters because it explains why the problem might appear only at certain times, only in one room, or only when a specific appliance or nearby device is active. Good support starts by asking what changes in the environment when the problem appears. Bluetooth is another wireless technology that beginners need to know, and it is very common in everyday support work. Bluetooth is mainly used for short-range connections between devices such as headsets, speakers, keyboards, mice, watches, and cars. It is designed for convenience and lower power use, which is why it works well for accessories that do not need the speed or range of Wi-Fi. Bluetooth often uses the same general 2.4 GHz area of the spectrum, which means it can sometimes be affected by the same crowded conditions that hurt Wi-Fi. Users usually do not describe the problem by naming the spectrum or the band. They say the earbuds keep cutting out, the speaker sounds choppy, or the keyboard stops responding for a moment and then comes back. Those symptoms often point to short-range, physical blockage, interference, or pairing issues rather than to complete device failure. For beginners, the key point is that Bluetooth is meant for nearby device-to-device communication, not for long-distance, high-speed networking. It also helps to understand what Bluetooth is good at and what it is not meant to do. Bluetooth is great for audio accessories, wearables, and small peripherals because it allows quick cable-free connections in a short area around the device. It is not ideal when the user expects the same kind of range or stability they would get from a well-placed Wi-Fi network. Range is limited, walls and bodies can reduce signal quality, and many small interruptions can affect audio or input devices before the user sees any obvious sign on the screen. That is why someone can be only a short distance away and still get poor sound if there are obstacles, battery issues, or crowded radio conditions. A technician should also remember that Bluetooth devices often have to pair and remember one another, which adds another possible failure point. If a headset worked yesterday but will not reconnect today, the problem may be the stored relationship between the devices, not broken hardware. That makes Bluetooth problems very common, but also very understandable once you know what to expect. Near-field communication, NFC, is another short-range wireless technology, but it serves a very different purpose from Bluetooth or Wi-Fi. NFC is designed for extremely close communication, usually at a distance so short that the devices almost have to touch or be brought very near each other. That is why it is commonly used for tap-to-pay actions, access badges, quick setup tasks, and small data exchanges that need to happen quickly at very close range. The short range is one of its most useful features because it helps reduce accidental communication with distant devices and makes the action feel intentional. A beginner should not think of NFC as a replacement for Wi-Fi or Bluetooth. It is not meant for ongoing audio, large file transfers, or general network access. It is meant for brief, close, targeted communication. If a user says tap payment is not working or a badge action fails, the technician should think about NFC being disabled, the device not being positioned close enough, case thickness, account setup, or the reader on the other side having the problem. Radio frequency identification, or RFID, is related to short-range radio use, but it works differently from NFC and Bluetooth and is often used in settings where identification matters more than general communication. RFID is commonly used with tags and readers for things like inventory tracking, access control, shipping, badges, and item identification. In simple terms, a reader detects or reads information from a tag. Some tags are very simple and do not actively send information unless the reader energizes them, while others are built for more complex uses. The most important beginner-level idea is that our RFID is usually about identification and tracking, not about building an ongoing two-way wireless session the way Wi-Fi or Bluetooth does. A user may encounter it without even realizing it, such as when entering a building with a badge or when items are tracked in a warehouse. If the system does not detect the badge or tag correctly, the problem may involve the tag, the reader, distance, alignment, or the surrounding environment rather than the network as a whole. At this point, it helps to connect the short-range technologies to the larger Wi-Fi picture so they do not all blur together. Wi-Fi is mainly about network access and moving larger amounts of data over a wider area. Bluetooth is mainly about short-range accessory connections and low-power device communication. NFC is mainly about very close, quick exchanges, often with a tap-like action. RFID is mainly about detecting and identifying tagged items or credentials. Those technologies can all exist around the same user and the same device, but they are solving very different problems. That is why technicians should avoid thinking of all wireless features as if they were interchangeable. If a user cannot connect earbuds, Wi-Fi standards and channels may not be the main issue. If a user cannot tap a payment terminal, Bluetooth may have nothing to do with it. A lot of beginner frustration disappears once you stop treating wireless as one giant category and start seeing each technology as a separate tool with a different job. Wi-Fi standards make even more sense when you connect them to the band behavior you already know. Older standards such as 802.11b and 802.11g are tied to the 2.4 GHz band, while 802.11a is tied to 5 GHz. Later standards such as 802.11n can work on both 2.4 GHz and 5 GHz, while 802.11ac is mainly associated with 5 GHz, and 802.11ax is designed to improve performance in modern busy environments and can be used across multiple bands depending on the equipment. You do not need to panic about memorizing every detail all at once. The more useful beginner idea is that newer standards usually help devices share airspace better and move data more efficiently, but only when both the access point and the device support those newer features. If one side is older, the experience may still work, but it may not be as fast or as smooth as the user expects. Compatibility matters just as much as raw speed. When a wireless complaint comes in, beginners should learn to ask a few simple questions in their head. Is this a range problem, a congestion problem, an interference problem, or a compatibility problem? Does the issue happen everywhere or only in one area? Does it affect one device or many devices? Does it show up only on Wi-Fi, only on Bluetooth, only during tap actions, or only with certain accessories? Those questions help turn a vague complaint into something much easier to understand. A laptop that slows down in a far room may be dealing with band range limits. A phone that struggles only in the evenings in a crowded apartment may be dealing with congestion. A headset that cuts out near certain electronics may be dealing with interference. A badge or payment problem may have nothing to do with Wi-Fi at all. This kind of thinking is what makes wireless support feel organized instead of random. Physical space also matters more than many new learners expect. Wireless signals move through the real world, and the real world is full of walls, doors, floors, pipes, metal, furniture, appliances, shelves, and people. That means the placement of an access point, the layout of a room, and the position of the user all affect the experience. A network can look great on paper and still perform poorly if the access point is badly placed, blocked, or too far from the devices relying on it. The same is true for short-range technologies. Bluetooth can weaken when the accessory is in a pocket, behind the body, or low on battery. NFC can fail if a case is too thick or the device is not held close enough to the reader. RFID can behave poorly if a tag is damaged or not presented correctly. Good technicians remember that wireless problems are often shaped by the environment just as much as by the device settings. The big lesson from this topic is that wireless performance is not just about having a signal. It is about having the right technology for the job, the right band for the environment, enough clean channel space, and as little interference as possible. 2.4 GHz often reaches farther, but gets crowded more easily. 5 GHz often gives more speed and cleaner channel options, but usually covers less distance. Bluetooth, NFC, and RFID all serve different short-range purposes, and each one creates its own kind of support issue when range, pairing, alignment, battery level, or environment gets in the way. If you keep those ideas straight, user complaints become much easier to interpret. Instead of hearing only that wireless is bad, you start hearing clues about speed, distance, crowding, interference, or the wrong radio technology being used for the task. That is the kind of beginner-friendly understanding that makes this topic manageable and useful.
Thanks for listening. For more audio courses, daily newsletters, and more, please visit BareMetalCyber.com.